Welcome in for another episode of Phone It In right here on Sobros Network, powered by Memo's Mexican Kitchen out in Mount Juliet, Tennessee. For my money, the best Mexican food in the Nashville area. Head out to Memo's, let them know the Sobros Network sent you. I am your host for this episode of Phone It In, the EIC at SobrosNetwork.com, Big Natural Stoney Keeley. You can follow me on Twitter at Stoney Keeley, collectively at Sobros Network on all major social media platforms. Mine's right, ass is tight as we tackle the topic of the simulation. Are we even here? Is this even real? We're going to dive into it today. If you're watching with us live on YouTube, be sure to jump in the comments. Let us know where you're watching from, what you're drinking, how your day's been. If you have any questions, whatever you want to drop in that comment section. We'll get to it as we can. Of course, I couldn't do it without my co-host for Phone It In. She is the cryptid queen, Rooster. Rooster, how you doing today?
I'm doing so good. How are you, Stoney?
I'm doing well. I'm doing very well. We spent too much time in our production meeting going over the show, and now I've drank just about my entire gin and tonic. So we're going to see if I can pull this off today or not.
Yeah. Same.
The simulation.
I finished my pear seco.
What is that? Is that
it's
a wine?
No. It's a pear hard cider.
It kind of sounds good. That kind of sounds like it rules a little
from
bit.
Aldi. It's pretty good. Yeah.
Aldi fucks. Okay?
Yeah, it does.
I'll just say
it. That's our grocery store. Aldi.
Yeah. Award-winning whiskey. The Winking Owl wine is fantastic.
It is.
I'll drink it any night of the week.
Cheap
Aldi not sponsoring
stuff.
Phone It In. By the way. Just free shout out to them.
Yeah.
So we're here to talk about the simulation, and I actually had to write a paper about this in college.
Oh, that's cool.
For those that don't know, I do have a degree in psychology from the esteemed Harvard of the South, Middle Tennessee State University. And for a research methods course that I took, which actually, no, that wasn't the research methods. It was a cognition course I had to take. I had to take a bunch of shit.
Yeah.
About how the brain works, how we process information, that sort of thing. And our final paper was like 15 pages on the general idea was, tell me how the Matrix could potentially be real.
Okay.
So I had to go in through, like, from a biological standpoint, it is completely feasible that something like the simulation could happen. So I've been interested in this topic for quite some time. It kind of seems like a big one. there's a lot to get to with this one, but what made you pick this topic for today's show? What piqued your interest about it?
You brought it up.
Did I? Okay.
Yeah, this is your topic call
Excuse me?
out.
Did you just
Your
call me a cop?
This is your cop. Yeah, this was all you. And then you probably know more about it than I do then, because have you read the show notes?
I have, yes.
Okay.
Just getting ready. But it wasn't even like I wasn't even aware that the simulation theory was out there at the time I had to write the paper. It was just a kind of a like how much have you been paying attention in class? Explain to me, it's kind of like one of those assignments which I give the professor. I can't remember his name. He was super fucking cool too. I can't remember his name, but he was kind of like, there are breadcrumbs throughout the material we've covered this semester that will get you there if you were paying attention. It was a really creative assignment. And I want to say that was one of the courses I actually got an A in. But it was completely separate from simulation theory itself. We weren't exactly covering that per se. It was just biology, the firing of a synapse. If you touch a hot stove, for example, it's not the act of touching the stove that feels hot by itself. It is a series of neurons firing synapse to synapse that communicates from the source of sensation, which is your hand, to your brain. So theoretically, if you could fire those synapses to a similar area of the brain, it would tell your brain, hey, your hand's burning up, whether you're actually touching something hot or not. And that's kind of the crux of this whole thing is like, well, if you could manipulate that, then yes, you could alter at a basic level. Every sense that we perceive is through neural pathways like that. And so if you can alter those, manipulate them, you could have a human perceive just about anything.
And that's way more interesting. The premise, the official published theory, was so fucking boring. I was so disappointed. I actually read it all. I read it.
Good for you.
It was not that long, but it was so like, it felt like just somebody who wanted to fuck around with like theoretical percentages. Like it was just like some kind of math nerd jacking off. I mean, it didn't go deep into any kind of cool psychology or anything like that, not even philosophy. It was just like, how likely is this to be real? And it was like, okay, that's not fun. That's not fun though. So I did throw in other stuff because I was like, okay, well, this is just a nerd.
Have you ever had any, I guess what Reddit would call glitch in the matrix moments?
Yeah.
Have you ever had any moments that you can't really explain? Because I feel like we kind of teeter between this and supernatural phenomenon as well. But there have been a couple of times for me that I've just been like, that did not make sense, but it wasn't like a scary feeling kind of deal.
No. Not off the top of my head. Nothing that I can really know.
Yeah, I remember being a kid and my dad and I leaving the house one day, and our neighbor was standing out in his front yard staring at the sky. And so we just like waved at him, said hello, how you doing? We couldn't get his attention, never looked down or anything. The next day we saw him and he was like, oh, you couldn't have seen me yesterday because I was in another town visiting family. I just got back this morning. It was a very, very strange thing. So I don't know. I mean, maybe that was supernatural.
That's a super weird one.
I've always felt like, and my father saw the guy too. Like this was a shared experience. Like it wasn't anything creepy. It wasn't anything that felt supernatural at the time. It was just, this is our neighbor standing out in the front yard. We waved at him. We yelled his name. He didn't budge. And then the next time we saw him, he told us he wasn't in town. That's what it felt like to me. Was like, as an adult, as I like went back and revisited this memory, it's kind of like, oh, that was a weird like glitch in the matrix.
That's a good one. That's a really good one to have. I'm glad you have one because I don't have any.
Yeah.
And I was searching on Reddit for a couple. But yeah, that's exactly. I would call that a glitch in the matrix for sure.
Yeah. And I feel like I've had memories before, which memory is kind of a tricky thing anyway.
Yeah.
When you start talking about the psychology and biology of it, memory is not a very reliable source for anything at all.
And it gets less reliable the more you think about the memory. It's fucking weird.
So I do feel like there have been times when just little things like, I know I left the toothpaste right here. I didn't turn around for longer than 30 seconds to turn the sink on, and I came back and the toothpaste is gone.
I've had moments like that. I would say most people have.
Yeah.
That is one of those like weird memory things.
And even like walking into a room and just completely forgetting why you walked into a room.
Or deja vu, maybe, you know?
Deja vu, yeah, that's a great example of
when deja vu hits hard. Oh my God, that's a weird feeling.
Have you ever had deja vu where so vivid that you recognize it's deja vu, like this feels like it's happened before and this is about to happen, and then that does happen?
I don't know I've ever had it to that extent.
I've had that happen to me before, where like I know what this is going to sound so.
That doesn't even sound like deja vu anymore. If you're predicting the future, that doesn't even sound like deja vu anymore.
It's like, oh, this happened and this is about to happen, and then it does. So this is what I say in this moment. So I say it, kind of deal. That's happened to me before. Am I just a freak? Am I just a freak of nature?
No.
Okay.
You're just.
I feel weird, like I'm outing myself as a lunatic on this show.
No, you're just walking that line between a different reality.
Man, that would be so sick. You like check in on me one day, Stoney, how's it going? And I'm just gone.
That would, I don't know if I would say that's sick.
That sounds be
sad. Like, what the fuck happened to Stoney? He's just disappeared. That would be my new glitch in the matrix. I'd be like, I don't know. My good friend just fucking disappeared one day.
Yeah. And then I show up in another timeline, start my life. I'm really not making it sound like I'm in a good place right now, but I promise I am in a perfectly fine place.
This is what happens when we like finish our drinks before we start recording.
I'm doing well, viewers. I promise I'm doing well. But I do think that would be sick to just go to another dimension one day, because my energy's been a little off my whole life. So I don't know.
You're already from a different.
Maybe I am.
Maybe you're a changeling, you know?
What does that mean?
You know, like a fairy baby, they come and steal a baby and then they leave one of their own, but maybe that's just somebody coming from a different dimension.
Kind of wild to think about, and I'm connected to it somehow. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. But let's talk about the simulation.
Yeah.
Let's get into the show agenda for today.
Okie dokie. So the simulation hypothesis, as proposed by Nick Bostrom, who's the one who published the article on this.
Okay.
The percentages nerd.
When was this, by the way? Do you remember?
I don't know when it was published. Oh, 2003. Okay. Just kidding.
Okay, so it would have been around when I was in college. Just I didn't know about it.
So that what sentient beings experience as the world is actually a simulated reality, such as a computer simulation in which humans themselves are constructs.
Okay.
So we're not even physically real. It's different than the Matrix.
Yeah.
He's not proposing that we're like body bags somewhere, but that we're not even physically real.
Okay. Okay. Which, again, if we're just a brain in a jar somewhere, is perfectly feasible that you could wire that brain to a.
This is not even brain. This is as if we're we're Sims characters.
Oh, I see. Okay, my bad. I'll step back.
I forgot what I was about to say.
My
Oh,
bad. I
this
completely
is
derailed that.
this is like basically the intro of the published article, which
Okay.
you can find it and read it online. Like it's you just Google it and it's there. But it is boring. It's boring as hell.
All right, good to know. I am not going to read it now.
The intro is the best part, and then each thing just breaks down some, like, it gets less and less interesting. It's like, I don't care about that.
Yeah.
Okay, so his premise is that many works of science fiction, as well as some forecasts by serious technologists and futurologists, predict that enormous amounts of computing power will be available in the future. Let us suppose for a moment that these predictions are correct. One thing that later generations might do with their super powerful computers is run detailed simulations of their forebears or of people like their forebears. Because their computers would be so powerful, they could run a great many such simulations. Suppose that these simulated people are conscious, as they would be if the simulations were sufficiently fine-grained and if a certain quite widely accepted position in the philosophy of mind is correct. That sentence doesn't make sense to me.
It does not make sense to me either.
Then it could be the case that the vast majority of minds like ours do not belong to the original race, but rather to people simulated by the advanced descendants of an original race. So basically, that we're not even the real humans anymore. We're like ancient ancestors in a simulation.
Damn. That is
Like
not
an
a
advanced race is just playing human, like like
yeah.
we're Civ 5 or whatever.
Yeah.
Video game.
I don't know what that means.
Yeah, it's a real-time strategy video game. Maybe it's not even real time. I don't fucking know. I never played it. But you play like ancient whatever. Anyway, it's like if somebody were playing Sims with ancient people.
So is this premise based entirely on like the science fiction, the forecast by technologists and futurologists? I mean, what is the basis? Like, where did Nick Bostrom get this idea?
I didn't put it down, but have you heard of like the Drake equation?
No, I have not.
So it's like the equation that says like space is this big, which means it is this likely to have aliens in it. So
Yeah.
it's like an equation based off of assumptions, which you can't do percentages. You can't do percentages. I've got a friend who does like fucking rocket propulsion or something, stupid smart, that I talked about this with. And he has talked to me like I'm a child, but you can't do percentages with assumed numbers. Percentages are like, if you have a die, you can know like what percentage it's going to land on the 2 or whatever.
Sure.
But when you don't know numbers, you can't do percentages. So the Drake equation is bullshit. And if this is like the Drake equation, it's also bullshit because you can't be like, it is this likely. It's like a 50% chance that it's likely we're in a simulation. It's like, no, it's not, because you're doing that off of a guess from nowhere.
Yeah. Or technically, it is a 50% probability because your options are yes or no. We are living in a simulation. I'll see myself out.
I think we're too dumb to have this conversation.
We might be. I'm just like, I don't know. I'm curious at what empirical data is there to really base a theory or a hypothesis off of for something
None.
like this? Because I mean, most of the work, I mean, to me, seems like it would be theoretical. Like it is fun to discuss, but oh Lord, I got fruit flies flying around me. Sorry. Yeah, happened to me too. I have to get my big strong husband to come in here and kill it for me. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm kind of questioning the basis for this premise.
I honestly, that's why I was like, okay, let me read this. And nothing nothing came out of like, here's why I think this might be possible. It was just like math to be like, okay, well, let's assume that planets can be turned into computers. It's like, why are we assuming this?
Yeah, and listen, I'm okay with loosey goosey when we're talking about
Well, that's why I was like, I'm going to be drinking for this because this is drunk college talk.
Yeah, like I'm okay with, flying by the seat of our pants here and just thinking on the fly. But
yeah,
when I do think about just equating it to like football, of course, but like if your stats aren't right, if your numbers aren't right, if your hard truths, your facts are not accurate, your analysis is just going to be completely off.
yeah,
And
exactly that.
it's a spiral effect that if you don't have a solid basis for this, I don't know. You can do all the. I'm just shitting on this guy for no reason.
I fucking.
But if that foundation is not tight, then it doesn't matter how much math you do.
Exactly.
It's still kind of fundamentally flawed, and so that's why like I take issue with this. Is just kind of like, what are we? What's the hard set of data that we're working off of to build this theory out?
Nothing.
All right. Well, you know what? Let's shut it down. The episode's over. There's no point in even continuing.
That's why the paper was so boring, because I was like, what is even like, I don't know. Even if, I mean, as I read some of it, it's like, sure, whatever, but you're starting from nonsense into nonsense. So it's kind of basically like, I mean, it might as well be a religion because it's nothing.
Yeah. It's interesting.
It's a big old nothing burger. What religion is like, no, you have to believe. It's like, okay, well, that's a fucking nothing assumption then. Okay.
Yeah. So from in an empirical setting like this, it just doesn't fly. So
Bostrom's conclusion, it is then possible to argue that if this were the case, we would be rational to think that we are likely among the simulated minds rather than among the original biological ones. Okay, so here it went into how, well, humans don't do that well. They don't really last that long. We're already here for so long. First of all, what are you comparing that to? Oh, have humans come and gone before? Like,
yeah.
So it's like, it's unlikely for humans to live that long without destroying ourselves. So what's the likelihood that we are the rare few that are living at this point in time, or that we're a simulation of our forebears? It's like, excuse me?
Like we're accepting a lot as truth to make this work that doesn't necessarily line up.
Yeah. Okay, so it says, therefore, if we don't think that we are currently living in a computer simulation, we are not entitled to believe that we will have descendants who will run lots of such simulations of their forebears.
I feel like if there's a lot of math and statistics and probabilities and all that in this study, this man would probably be pissed off by what I'm about to say, but this reads like something out of a philosophy textbook.
You think it does? Because I don't think it does.
I do. Well, it's a lot of like, well, if this, then that.
Okay, sure.
And it's like, okay, well, but that thing that you're basing it off of is not like a hard fact, an established principle, laws of physics and that sort of thing. Like, it's a thought exercise to me.
Yeah, it's a thought exercise for math.
Okay.
You know, like, because he didn't even get into, I don't know. I felt like it would have been more interesting if it was something like, why, like, he didn't even really get into Descartes kind of shit. It wasn't even like, how do we know what we're looking at is real? It was all just kind of math.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I haven't read it. I'm just saying, like, from the premise, from the way that we've described it here, it sounds more like a philosophical discussion, which, I love philosophical discussions. I've got a bunch of philosophy books on my bookshelf. but it's, I don't know, like you try to pass this off as like hard research, and I just
Oh
don't
my
know that
God.
that's the place for it.
It honestly pissed me off looking this up on Reddit because people were like, "Oh, are you stupid? I mean, there's like an 80% chance we're a simulation." And it's like, what the fuck are you saying?
Yeah, like what is that based off of? That's
Nothing.
the hurdle I can't get over.
Yep.
Let's just beat this dude down for an hour on this show
So
instead of
this
fun
is all
stuff.
from called Are You Living in a Computer Simulation? You can read it. I
This
wouldn't
is
recommend it.
an article.
Yeah. Yeah, a published article. Um okay. Um I took some more little I found like one slightly interesting bit that said
Okay.
it is not impossible for humans to tell whether they are living in a simulation. For example, Bostrom suggests that a window could pop up saying, "You are living in a simulation. Click here for more information." However, imperfections in a simulated environment might be difficult for the native inhabitants to identify, and for purposes of authenticity, even the simulated memory of a blatant revelation might be purged programmatically.
Programmatically.
Never said that word before.
In programmatic fashion.
Which
So how
is
do we?
that's fun. That's the
Yeah.
kind of stuff I was hoping would be in there. Like, okay, so yeah, if we ever did see a glitch or like something weird happen, it could just be purged from our brains. Like updates. So the big rip.
Okay. This is
Yeah, let's start getting more fun. So I saw a Reddit comment basically saying like, well, wouldn't the simulators eventually get bored and shut it down, or there be computer issues? Like how are
Well,
we staying stable for so long?
I mean that's a fair question.
It
What
definitely
are
is.
what are the motives here? What are we doing?
Well, first of all, my question is, who the fuck would do this?
Yeah.
Who's like, you know what? Let's run a simulation that just goes on forever of like really boring shit for the most part.
Yeah. I mean, I have an answer to that. I actually wrote a short story about it.
I mean, that sounds more interesting
It's
than Nick Bostrom's.
aliens that are planning to inhabit Earth, but want to make sure it's okay and safe before they come here. So they inhabit human bodies and run through all this stuff.
That's
But that's it.
cool. I like
That's
that
it.
though. That's cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then somebody was like, "Oh, just wait until you hear about the big rip," which is so stupid. Why can't people on Reddit actually just like link you to something or whatever? Just like wait till you hear about that. It's like, are you gonna tell me? Shut up.
Yeah, that's useless.
Okay, so the big rip. In physical cosmology, the big rip is I feel like I got a burp. It's just sitting.
Do you want me to take this part? I can take this paragraph so you can mute and go burp.
It's okay. It's okay. It's past.
All right. All right.
Okay, the big rip is a oh god.
Do I need to take this?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
In physical cosmology, the Big Rip is a hypothetical cosmological model concerning the ultimate fate of the universe, in which the matter of the universe, from stars and galaxies to atoms and subatomic particles, and even space time itself, is progressively torn apart by the expansion of the universe at a certain time in the future until distances between particles will infinitely increase.
I feel like this is kind of close to even talking about our episode on black matter a little bit.
Yeah, I noticed that when I was reading through the agenda. I was kind of like, oh, we're gonna touch on some dark energy here.
Yeah, it
And
gets
the dark matter episode is a fun one from the Phone It In backlogs. Go search
archives.
That one up. Yeah.
Okay, so the truth of the hypothesis relies on the type of energy present in our universe. The type that could prove this hypothesis is a constantly increasing form of dark energy known as phantom energy. If the dark energy in the universe increases without limit, it could overcome all forces that hold the universe together.
Which
It's
would
like
be
we're
bad.
we're just like fucking torn apart.
Yeah. Oh man.
Like it just keeps expanding until like it goes past whatever it is that's holding us all together and we just fucking rip apart. But that they're saying is like maybe that's the end of the simulation, I guess, is what they were kind of hinting at. Like,
but is it actually the end of the situation, the end of the simulation, or is it what the programmers have put in to end the simulation?
Right. Yeah. Like that's where they're like, you know what? We're tired of wasting energy on this. Because also that's another thing. Why would anybody waste the energy to do this? And that kind of was in the paper is like, well, it would be really easy to do all this. Like, okay, it's not what any of us are here for, Nick.
Just because you can. I mean, I don't know. I've done stupider stuff than
but
simulating an entire
even if we have that
universe.
Much of like a vast amount of resources to do that in the future, it still seems like, well, I mean, we would have to have a lot of resources for it not to seem like a waste.
Yeah.
But even then, it's like some kid in his mom's basement playing The Sims for what? How long? How many fucking years?
Maybe the simulation is geared for a specific finite number of people, and the rest of us are all just like NPCs that were just lines of code somewhere that keep going and going and going. And so we're not, it's not even just that we're not real humans, but we're not real in the simulation either.
Okay, well, you're getting a little Descartes here.
Okay.
So moving on to dream theory, because this is kind of, I mean, the whole question of what's real is very old. I think it kind of first started with the dream theory. So there's a long philosophical and scientific history to the underlying thesis that reality is an illusion. The skeptical hypothesis can be traced back to antiquity. One of the first philosophers to question the distinction between reality and dreams was Zhuangzi, a Chinese philosopher of the 4th century BC, known as the butterfly dream, which basically goes, once Zhuangzi dreamt he was a butterfly flitting and flitting around, happy with himself and doing as he pleased. He didn't know he was Zhuangzi. Suddenly he woke up and there he was, solid and unmistakable Zhuangzi. But he didn't know if he didn't know if he was Zhuangzi who had dreamt he was a butterfly or a butterfly dreaming he was Zhuangzi. It's too late to question it. It's too late to question it.
It's already out there. It's already out there at this point.
It's been done.
I mean, dreams don't really make sense anyway. To me. No.
There's some people who have incredibly, it's funny, the rocket propulsion dude has weirdly detailed dreams. He's one of those people who, like, if you ask to imagine an apple, he's turning it, he's flipping it, he sees the whole thing as if it's like real. And his dreams are like also as weirdly vivid. He remembers so much. They're super like normal a lot of the time.
This is like Rain Man.
This is the guy that I went and stayed in the cabin with the mountains. The mountains. This is my buddy. So
that's
he's an interesting guy.
Have you ever had a lucid dream?
Yeah.
I feel like I have before, but the degree of how vivid they are varies from time to time.
It's a struggle for me.
But I mean the concept. I've never had one so vivid that it has made me. Well, that's not true. I have had a dream before that I've thought
could have been real.
Did that really happen?
I for sure.
Yeah. I actually have a few memories that I'm like, oh, did that actually happen? Some of it's probably trauma, repression, stuff like that. But for the most part, yeah.
I feel like dreams go in and out for me. Sometimes they're super vivid. Sometimes I don't remember my dreams for a long time. I actually learned how to lucid dream from a Blue's Clues episode.
Excuse me?
Yes.
What version of the simulation are you in?
It was like an episode, I don't know. They like did their little dance and they jumped into a painting, and I feel like it was they started talking about lucid dream. Anyway,
I don't remember that episode.
there's things you can do to practice lucid dreaming too. Like
Mm-hmm.
if you feel like you're starting to get more aware, it's like look at a clock, because
Yeah.
apparently clocks are never normal in dreams.
They
Stuff like
say like something as simple as like keeping a journal. Like if you jot down your
yeah,
dreams
that'll help you remember.
right after you wake up, like it'll help you remember and it'll kind of train your brain to pay a little more attention to them. And
Mhm.
it's after you do it for a while, it's one of the things that you can wake up within a dream.
For me, they tend to happen when it's like really horrible shit. You know, like if you're running really slow
Yeah.
because zombies
Yeah.
are chasing you, that's where I'm like, no, come on. And then, I'm shooting them with finger guns or something. Like,
So I I have had plenty of dreams where I will realize I'm in a dream and then we'll wake up. Sometimes like you jolt awake in the
yeah,
middle of the
it
night.
wakes you up.
It's like, oh, that was a dream. But I'm saying like I am still in my dream running from the zombies and I'm saying, oh, Stony, this is a dream. This is a dream. Just wake up, snap out of it, and then I will
Yeah.
wake up. And that to
Yeah.
me is kind of weird. Like those instances do kind of feel like a simulation.
Isn't it weird to be like, you're freaking out so bad that your brain is like, okay, well, let's try and back out of this one.
Yeah,
Wake your
yeah.
ass up. It's
But
like,
it
you did
doesn't.
this to me. You did this to me.
Yeah, and where I think the theory is kind of fun is that you could kind of posit like if your brain is sort of hardwired to protect your body, why would it do these things to put your body in distress?
Exactly. Yeah.
Therefore, your brain is not controlling this, and maybe it is some sort of outside
Oh, that's
force.
interesting.
Yeah.
I like
My
that. That's actually really interesting because, yeah, maybe it isn't your brain doing it.
yeah. My buddy Jake wants to know, how do we define what is real?
Okay, so he wants to get to Descartes.
Descartes. I never knew. I've always read that name, and I never knew how to pronounce it. I've been going my whole
Oh,
life
I'm
saying
guessing. I
Descartes.
well, he's French, isn't he? Oh my God.
Descartes. Descartes.
So you say like 3 of the letters, He is
Yeah.
French.
I
Oh,
don't.
March birthday. What's up?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know what is real.
Okay.
But Descartes got us.
Okay. Okay, the philosophical underpinnings of this underpinnings. It's not. We're
Underpinnings.
not pining. We're
We're
not
not
pining
pining
for this.
anything. No, I got
Okay.
you. I got you.
Of this argument are also brought up by Descartes, who was one of the first Western philosophers to do so. In Meditations on First Philosophy, he states there are no certain indications by which we may clearly distinguish wakefulness from sleep. And goes on to conclude that it is possible that I am dreaming right now and that all my perceptions are false. So Descartes' whole thing is it's doubt. Descartes' whole philosophy is doubt. He's
So
got the whole
he's kind of thinking like, okay, well, if you tell me my dreams aren't real, but I'm feeling those, I'm in those moments. I'm feeling these moments when I'm awake. I'm in these moments and I'm awake, but you're telling me they are real. So what's the difference? Like, what
yeah.
if?
Mm-hmm.
And
And
these are some deep thoughts for
he was like, how do we know what
back in the
anything
day.
is? We have to deconstruct everything and start from a root truth.
Yeah. Yeah.
So his thing, he's the I think, therefore I am guy. So the simple meaning of the phrase is that if one is skeptical of existence, that is in and of itself proof that he exists. So this is kind of like the NPC thing. Like, would you actually really be having thoughts of consciousness if you were an NPC?
I don't know. Maybe.
Because so the senses are unreliable. People are colorblind. People perceive things differently. Like
Yeah.
you can ask like an event of how it happened. Everybody's gonna have a different story.
Sure.
So senses are unreliable, so the only reliable truth of existence is that you're thinking. So he also introduced okay. To even, because his whole thing was testing everything, doubt of everything. So he was like, okay, well, is it possible that there's like a demon, which is, going back then, a demon could be like alien for us now, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a demon altering or controlling my thoughts? Are my thoughts my own?
Yeah.
But for Descartes, we do know that we exist because knowledge of one's own existence escapes the skeptical conclusion, because if I am being deceived, I must exist in order for there to be an I which is deceived. Which I
That
love
makes
that.
sense.
You can't be deceived if you don't exist.
If you don't exist, yeah.
Therefore, this proposition, I am, I exist, whenever it is uttered from me or conceived by the mind, necessarily is true. Which that's so dope. What a cool guy.
That clears.
It would probably be exhausting being his friend.
I'd have to sit there and be like, "Hey, buddy, can you just run that by me again?"
Yeah.
Hold on.
You'd be like, can we just chill for like one day?
Yeah, there's a football game on tonight. Can we just not?
But it's a good point, because like, how are you being deceived? How are you being controlled if you don't even exist?
Yeah. I don't know. I want to pick that apart, but I can't, because there's going to be a lot of silence, and we're trying to do a podcast, and silence doesn't play well on podcasts.
But yeah, I mean, it goes into a lot of sci-fi stuff, like what, Vanilla Sky, was that one?
I never saw Vanilla Sky.
Okay. Total Recall, how do you know you're not? Oh my God. No, that's a great Arnold movie. You should watch that one. That one's fun.
I just watched Commando for the first time.
We're watching Terminator 2. We're getting I love Arnold so much. Like, what a big part of my childhood. All of his movies are great. Anyway, but it's like, so even if you have your thoughts, if you are in a simulation, how do you know what you're perceiving is true? And you really can't necessarily.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. I still think that there is possibility for our own thoughts to be controlled and therefore predetermined in a way.
We could, yeah. I mean, I guess we could be controlled. His whole thing was like, do we exist? So, okay, we exist, but are we being controlled? But there's, I mean,
do we exist? I think where I'm getting mixed up on this, like, do we exist? Yes, we do, but it's possible that we don't know what we actually are, if that makes sense. If we are just sentient entities in a sack of meat and bones on a planet with grass and trees and airs, multiple airs. Do you see what I'm saying here?
Yeah.
Like, that's where I think I'm getting hung up. It's not the basic idea, yes, we exist, but like, what are we? Maybe a different discussion.
Yeah.
And it is possible.
Well, I mean, it's such a big, because this goes into too, like, this also goes into like, we interact with and know things based on our senses. But what if things exist outside of our senses?
Yes.
I've got to actually, I forgot I have like a prompt for a short story based on this. But like, what if all these things?
I've actually forgotten. I've got to go. I've got an appointment to get to.
What if like all of these things are existing simultaneously with us and around us and whatever, but we don't know that they're there because you would only know with a sense that you don't have.
Yes. Yeah, that's pretty wild to think about.
Like, what if there's more dimensions, but we can only see, what do we see? 3 dimensions? I don't even know anymore. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What if there's more dimensions? We just can't perceive them.
It's crazy.
I think, is there like an ant theory that they only see in 2 dimensions?
I have no idea, but that sounds wild.
Oh, it came up pretty quickly. Do ants see in 2D?
That's pretty crazy.
Oh no, they see in 3D. I don't know. There was like I think this came up in my psychology class, or like it wasn't a psychology class, it was neuroscience or something. But like if things are existing with us that see in 2D, then they're not experiencing the same reality that we are.
Yeah.
I mean, they're missing out on a lot. So wouldn't it be as easy for us to be missing out on a lot?
Theoretically, yeah.
Because all we have are stupid ass senses, and people are blind and deaf and colorblind. Like, that's not that fucking reliable.
Yeah.
I mean, try telling, if everybody was born blind, you'd be like, there's no, like, colors don't exist, whatever. But like, they obviously do. You just wouldn't be able to see them.
That's kind of wild to think about, because like my brain immediately goes to like, what else could we possibly sense? Like I'm trying to.
Right. Like you can't even fathom it, because we wouldn't know. It's off our radar completely.
Wouldn't it be, this would be the perfect time for us to just unlock a sixth sense and just be like, oh right shit, now? We're live on the air on
and start like having a stroke or something. Like what would that even look like?
We have perceived another dimension here on Phone It In. Yeah. But we circle back to what I talked about at the beginning of the show. If you could theoretically manipulate someone's senses, you can do so from a biological standpoint. This is not some like science fiction shit, but the pathway is open to manipulate the neural pathways and the signals that you send to your brain to tell you that there's something there, that something smells, you see the color, whatever. It's through our senses that this is entirely possible from a theoretical standpoint.
Yeah.
All right. It is. I don't know if anybody's even still watching at this point. We've just
do we answer your question?
Yeah, Jake, how does that sound for what is real? I don't. It's a heavy topic that I think you can really.
Well, this is a fun drunk topic.
We could sit and talk about this all night. There's no doubt in my mind.
Yeah, it's a fun short story idea. I love it. That makes more sense to be like, yeah, if everybody were born deaf, doesn't mean sound doesn't exist, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway.
So we got some fun. We do want to lighten it up a little bit. I feel like we were teetering on a real like existential conversation there.
I dropped out for a minute. It started to overwhelm me for a second. You just like sit in silence.
Get out.
You just gotta sit in silence, and you're just like,
But that's what I'm saying. Like, if we start trying to pick this stuff apart and really talk about it, it's going to be a real shitty podcast.
This is why it's very similar to like the dark matter one or whatever it was called that we did, because I felt like it was pretty similar, and it's just like your brain stops working because you're just like, what is life even?
Yeah. Do you think we will get a letter from a professor?
Oh my God, in Australia? I fucking hope so.
Yeah. I never responded to that guy. It wasn't out of any.
What if we responded now, like 2 years later?
2 years after we did the episode. It's like, hey, do you remember sending us this email? We kind of want to explore it a little more now.
That would be an interesting episode to have somebody like that on, and we just let him be a nerd for like an hour, and we're just like, sure.
He would have cooked our asses.
Oh yeah, we would sit here and be like, okay, but how do you explain?
Like, you guys are stupid. Yeah. What are you doing here?
Yep.
Spreading misinformation.
Yes, that is what we're doing.
I have a psychology degree. I am fully qualified to talk about this.
I have a history degree.
All right. We do have some fun Reddit stories to get through.
Okay.
What, you have two of them here?
Two
of them? Okay.
First one was a straight up post. So they titled it, "Friend died in 2003, but now he's alive."
Oh, great. After I just said, we've got some fun Reddit stories to talk about. Here we are.
In 2003, well, he's alive. That's fun.
Strange. Okay.
In 2003, I learned that a school friend had died. A friend of his girlfriend told me about it. He just died in his sleep at 23 years old. I asked if substances were involved, and she said no. She was really sad because they had just gotten engaged. I told myself I would send condolences, but I never did. I remember talking to a mutual friend a few years later, and I got the sense that it was still a really sensitive subject. A couple years ago, I got a friend request from this guy. I didn't think it was real, so ignored it. Today, I learned that he's alive. He married the girl he was engaged to, the same one he had died next to.
Whoa.
The mutual
Whoa.
friend I had spoken to about it now thinks I'm crazy. I just asked him to remember the conversation we had about the death. That's it.
I would
So
feel
faulty memory, or maybe they was
completely
talking about
insane.
somebody else.
That my inclination was you got the wrong friend, buddy. But then I don't know. Could there be follow up here? Like, okay, well, was there somebody like from your school
Right.
that
Was
died
there somebody else who died?
that you could have been mixing it up with?
You know,
Like,
reading it back, I really should have looked in the comments to see if he updated.
well, that's
Because
too
it's like,
much.
yeah, was he thinking about somebody else?
I feel like that's probably the most plausible explanation for something like this.
It just seems weird, like a friend of his girlfriend. That's pretty close. That's not like too far
Yeah,
removed or anything. That's not like, oh yeah, my cousin's friend's nephew. You know,
yeah.
that's
It,
I don't know.
it's also like I don't know, on a basic human level, it doesn't feel like that's something that you would mix up. If you had a school friend that died, like, I don't know, maybe there is some sort of memory issue, or I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think I would mix that up. I do know some people in high school who died. Um,
Yeah.
and they have not come back to life. So yeah, that's the next one is more interesting in my opinion, but this is a comment on a prompt. So,
Okay. All
um
right.
so my mother did all of her GYN appointments with the doctor in downtown Austin. He was on the fifth floor of this hospital building and had a long-time nurse/receptionist named Allison. I remember attending her appointments when I was little. My mother would make a game out of finding the office and being in the waiting room, which was colorfully decorated with a forest scene. Allison was a super sweet woman who was half babysitter for us kids. She would read us books and give us coloring books and occasionally even listen to our dreadful knock knock jokes. We all refer to as Alice in Wonderland.
Sick.
There's a lot of details. This is a lot of details. It's something to keep in mind. This person has a lot of details of these memories.
Yeah.
Anyway, years down the road, I got married and pregnant and started searching for an OB since I moved back to Austin relatively recently before that. My mother suggested I go see if that doctor, who was super young, low 30s when I was born, was still in business. Well, I could not find his name in the hospital directory, so I would just swing by the office and check. My mother happened to be in town and came with me. We both joked about it being so familiar, but reversed situations now. As we reached the stairs, we ran into a problem. There was no fifth floor of this hospital office building. Odd. We both must have misremembered it. We knew it was on the top floor, so it must have been the fourth. Nope, not there. We thought maybe we were in the wrong building, except we parked in the same parking garage from 20 years ago and walked the same route.
Hmm.
That doctor does not exist. Never did, apparently. My mother and my brother and I are the only ones who remember him in Alice in Wonderland. We have asked around, including among the hospital staff. We even looked up our birth certificates, which are new copies, and just list attending physician.
Oh
One of my
shit.
childhood memories is fake, but shared with my brother and my mother.
That's
That
ooh.
is so weird. And for it to say attending
Ah,
physician, I know my birth certificate says the doctor.
that's the thing. It's the
Somebody,
the birth certificate.
and why are they new copies? Somebody in the comments said, suggested witness protection,
Okay. I mean,
which
maybe he.
is interesting idea.
What a
But then,
coincidence that would be, though. But for both
but
of
there's,
them?
but there's still no fifth floor.
Well, they could have misremembered
They
that.
could have. Okay. But man, that's really thorough witness protection. I don't know how thorough.
Maybe the guy.
That's a weird one. Can you imagine having a memory of like just the fucking dentist you always went to as a kid and it just not being real at all? But you and your entire fucking family remember it? I mean, I get like shared memories if you talk about something enough together, but this is just a fucking doctor's visit. You guys aren't sitting there talking over and over. Like, and an adult is involved. It's not like it's just two kids who've come up with this fairy tale idea. Like the mom, how could you imagine the fucking doctor who delivered your child and regularly got up in your vagina doesn't fucking exist? What a trip.
I'd have to know. I wouldn't be able to just let that go. I don't know what you could do, but that would drive me insane. I would go crazy.
Absolutely. Yeah. You would, for the rest of your life, you'd be like, what the fuck?
Yeah. And I don't know. I mean, do they see if the guy like got in trouble, like went to jail? Would they take his name off the birth certificate?
No. I wouldn't think that. No. But like, how does a doctor go into witness protection? What even happened there, if that's the story?
Ooh, there could be a fun little fiction idea in there.
Just constantly like getting short story ideas.
Mass corruption in the healthcare industry.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Like kicked over a rock that
I'm an idiot. I'm just thinking like he fucking there's a misdelivery of a mafia. No, but healthcare system is more interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. It's wild to think about. So you
and
said you
so
don't
many details too.
You don't have any stories like that?
No, I like honestly, I mean the normal ones that everybody has where like you put something down, you put it down there. Like you put it down right fucking there. That's where you always put it. 2 minutes later and it's just not there. That kind of stuff. But nothing big, nothing like you and your dad seeing that guy.
That was a pretty trippy thing. We were both a little freaked out by that, but it's far from the weirdest thing that's happened to me. That's what comes to mind, glitch in the Matrix story. I mean, I think like it's entirely possible that what we perceive as ghosts or could be like some sort of glitch in the Matrix kind of thing.
I think that's true. I like that theory that like maybe ghosts and other things like that are just from like a different reality or alternate universe kind of thing slipping through.
Yeah.
Or like time just works super weird. Maybe like you kind of like get looped up on each other in a weird way.
Yeah. Get lubed up on each other. Just me and my clone from another timeline. I don't know why I'm picturing seeing myself in all these situations.
I don't either. I mean, you are maybe always straddling the thin veil of reality, and I'm not.
There's like another me sitting right next to me right now, and I just can't perceive that he's there. And he's doing a podcast about something.
Well, technically he would be if it's you from the future or the past, because you sat there doing a podcast.
That's true.
So
he's sitting on top of me right now.
Instead of time being like a line, if time is always like this weird little continuum and it's like a weird frequency where you're kind of overlaid.
You're gonna cross wires. We're gonna sword fight at some point.
What?
Sword fighting, you know, the crossing. Maybe it's just a man thing, penises and stuff. Well, we made it.
Okay.
We made it through another episode of Phone It In.
Yeah, we did. We got here.
You got any parting thoughts?
No.
how likely do you think it is that we are living in some sort of simulation?
I don't think it's likely. I like the idea of alternate realities and weird time swoopies more than simulation.
I'm with you. I have a problem with the motivation part of it. It's something that
Yeah.
you brought up on the show before. Why? Now I know there are some theories about us being in like a physical simulation, like we are actually aliens from another planet that were put here to see if life could be sustained on Earth because there's going to be, a whole ship of us in a few years. It's going to come here and say, "Hey, our planet was destroyed. We got to live here, but we had to make sure
Did you
we
say
could
you
do."
wrote that short story?
I wrote a short story similar,
Okay.
but
I mean, that's
I
a more interesting theory because that would answer like motive.
yeah. hmm I mean, my short story was a little more. I don't know. I write stupid stuff that tries to be deep, where it's like it was a floating entity cloud in space that wanted to feel the joys of our perceptions, like
Ooh, like a
laughter,
god.
laughter and love and all that sort of stuff. So it's like, oh, we can inhabit these bodies and live, and we appreciate it because there's a finite mileage on these bodies we're in, and then once we die, we just go back to being particles. The
Well,
short
that's the whole
stories.
thing with, gods are jealous of humans kind of
Mm-hmm.
general
Yeah.
theme.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't think it's likely that we are plugged into a computer somewhere just wasting away like the Matrix. But I think it's fun to posit how it could be possible because
Yeah. I
I
mean,
think
that gets interesting.
there's a logical way for this to happen. It just requires so much fucking work. I can't like who and to what end would someone want to pursue this?
Well, it makes it kind of interesting a little bit, like if your life is a simulation and your life really starts sucking, is it because you've been reacting to things in all the wrong ways?
Yeah.
It's kind of
hmm
like an interesting theory. Like, why would they make somebody's life just absolute dog shit? Like
Yeah.
maybe they're like weird little opportunities sprinkled around where you didn't take the right fucking, I don't know, side quest kind of bullshit.
I mean, to think that like we are just like Sims on a big
Right.
TV somewhere, that's kind of bleak. I hope that's
It's,
not the
yes,
case.
it really is.
Yeah.
Because then I guess going against what I just said, why would they make somebody's life shit? I mean, what, we all just sit there and we take away the ladders when people are in the swimming pool. So
Yeah.
people are just sick fucks.
That is true. That is true. Well, we can end on that note, I guess.
Okay.
I got nothing to add.
Yeah.
Where can our listeners find you?
At Rooster_Chase.
There you go. There you go. And I'm at Stoney Keeley on Twitter, at Sobros Network, everywhere else. Don't forget to go check out Nemo's Mexican Kitchen out in Mount Juliet, Tennessee, just a mile north of I-40 off the Mount Juliet exit. For my money, in my opinion, the best Mexican food in the Nashville area. Go try out the quesadilla. Tell them Sobros Network sent you. Rate, review, subscribe to Phone It In wherever you take in your podcasts. We are out there in these internet streets, baby. We ain't too hard to find. You can check out all of our work at SobrosNetwork.com and check out premium content, including my coverage. Boy, if you love this podcast about simulation theory, you're going to love my coverage of the NFL draft and the Tennessee Titans on StackingTheInbox.com. I'm Big Natural Stoney Keeley. She is the cryptid queen Rooster. And until next time, you stay classy, phoners.
Bye.